music was the glue that held me together. Just don't know what both will be up to next. Some generally interesting themes. Such an incredible reading experience. I'm really glad I read that as well. Hello, welcome to a kind of casual reading vlog. I am currently in training for a new job, and I'm kind of getting reoriented with packing my lunches, packing my bag the night before, getting into that kind of flow and routine. Should be an interesting month. That routine is just for this week, and then next week I'm really not sure what it's going to look like. I am a personal trainer, so I am trying to figure out what hours I want to work. It's still very much an adjustment period. I just got a text from an old coworker inviting me out to a video game bar tomorrow night. So I think tomorrow's gonna be a long day, but it should be fun. It should be interesting. In terms of reading, I am in the middle of 3 books. Last vlog, I was in the middle of Wise Man's Fear. I'm still really enjoying it. I picked up 2 audiobooks, so I've been listening to The Spanish Love Deception, which I am also mostly enjoying. I'm not like obsessed with it, but I'm having fun. I'm about a quarter of the way into that. Pretty much what I expected from a contemporary romance. I like the workplace romance, fake dating element to it that I also find really fun. It is single POV. I usually prefer having dual POV. I actually haven't minded it so far in this one. I also picked up The Turn of the Screw. This is an older classic. It's pretty short, which is why I picked it up. I thought I might tick something off of my TBR that's been on there for quite some time. It's kind of like very fall, very atmospheric and autumnal, but it's also really slow. I am halfway through. Very, very little happens. There's a lot of dialogue about these occurrences that are coming up at the estate. We're following a nanny. I forget what it's called, like a caretaker for these children. She is having some weird experiences at the house, vents about it to another woman that works at the estate. They just kind of have this back and forth conversation every other day about how dreadful everything is and how scary and horrifying. So they just kind of like keep venting to each other, but nothing's actually happening. So it's a bit tedious, actually. I think I'm gonna give it a few days and maybe come back to it over the weekend. If it's still not vibing, I might just DNF, because we are trying to DNF more this year. I do like to challenge myself to read books outside my comfort zone, so that's where I struggle with like judging whether it's something that I should push through. I like having the exposure to a different writing style. It's a very slow and formal writing style. It's a little outside my comfort zone, so it feels like it's challenging me in a good way, but the story is not resonating. The characters aren't resonating. The only thing so far is just the setting, which even that is not a huge part of the storytelling. It's really just a small element that's mentioned briefly here and there. Not enough to make it feel like it's truly immersive in that way. I will report back. But yeah, next couple days should be interesting. Video game bar tomorrow night, and I also have a show on Saturday night that I'm going to see Dead Mouse. Between the training, going out tomorrow night, and then going out Saturday night, that's a lot for me, so I will probably be really, really dead by Sunday, Monday of next week. Oh yeah, I'm coaching CrossFit on Tuesday night. Hopefully by then I will have rallied a little bit. Otherwise, I will be breaking out the energy drinks. But I'll let you know how the reading and the caffeine addiction goes.
Check mt.info/elevators for real-time elevator status at your speed.
Business was practically settled from the moment I never followed him. It was a pitiful surrender to agitation, but my being aware of this had somehow no power to restore me. I only sat there on my tomb and read into what our young friend had said to me.
All right, hello. A little post-weekend check-in. The internet cafe was fun. I feel like the time really flew by. I only spent 2 hours, but it was definitely fun to try something different and just to see friends. It wasn't the most conducive to actually socializing, but slightly social nonetheless. Friday night I stayed in and I listened to the audiobook of Turn of the Screw while I worked on a little bit of a puzzle. It was a whole vibe. I really enjoyed myself. Overall, felt more positive than negative about Turn of the Screw, especially now that I've finished the book and I can kind of reflect on it. The parts that I didn't like were kind of forgettable. There were these conversations that were happening between some of the characters that just felt really repetitive. Like they just weren't saying anything, which felt really frustrating. It was like pulling teeth. But that was easy to forget once the book ended. The things that really stayed with me were the tone and the setting and the prose, as well as the way that the author used horror in a very subtle but effective way, and the way that morality was top of mind for our characters, how the horror and morality kind of played into each other, and then the ending being more open-ended. I also liked having that element of interpretation for the reader. So overall, I really liked it, and it was very gothic in tone and would be really, really good as a fall read, late summer, early fall. I think it transitions nicely into that eerie vibe, and it's not too long. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I'd say maybe like 3.5, 3.75, depending how I'm feeling. I guess I'm feeling a little bit more generous towards it. Yeah, looking back, I enjoyed having read it. I like having that context now and seeing how that influences so many other things in media. So that'll be interesting to kind of try to spot. I know that a lot of more recent and more modern films and books have taken inspiration from Turn of the Screw. So cool to have seen how that story played out. I'm almost at the 600-page mark for Wise Man's Fear. Not much more to update there. The character is he's subtly annoying. I guess I'm gotten used to him at this point, but he's just a cocky kid. Things are moving. He's now with another group of people that are trying to achieve something that's totally different than what he was doing in the beginning of the book. So things have definitely moved along. There's definitely been a change in environment. We're keeping it moving. To what end, to where we're going, I don't know. But I'm enjoying the journey overall. Good morning. I am just getting myself together. This past weekend was busy, fun. We went to a birthday party / going away party in Harlem. It was very tame. We got there early, we left early, which was really lovely. I had work the next morning, so that was interesting. I haven't had work that early on a Sunday in a very, very long time. It's been interesting kind of transitioning into this new career in personal training, because a lot of the reasons I left hospitality were because I didn't like working on the weekends and holidays and in the weird hours, but we're back in the service industry, but this time doing something that I'm a little more passionate about. Hopefully I can still enjoy it, even though it's like going to work on a Sunday. I still kind of enjoyed myself. I mean, I'm not really doing work with clients yet. I'm still trying to get clients, building up my clientele, but that'll take a little time. This is partly why I don't usually do updates in the morning. I am doing my skincare. All I do is splash my face with water in the morning. I actually don't wash my face in the mornings. And then I sprayed witch hazel, and I have this vitamin C serum that I use both morning and night. I'm going to use this vitamin E stick as my under eye cream today. It does leave a little bit of a shine, but that's okay. I'm not going anywhere today. Today will be a chill day of chores. As chill as I can make it. I've got a lot of laundry to do. I'm going to put on this Versed Gel Cream Moisturizer. This is one of my favorite daily moisturizers for the summer. It's very lightweight. Over the weekend, I also finished Spanish Love Deception. I really, really loved it for the first 80%. I was having a really good time. I really, really loved the relationship building up until that point. And the way that it wrapped up was a little disappointing. I found the whole building of the relationship to be very believable. And I felt very immersed into their love story. But then at the end, the conflict was more outside of them, which I liked, but it was resolved in a very unrealistic way. I don't see that being a very likely response from the people in their workplace. Anyways, so that kind of tinged the whole experience for me. Also, he ended up being extremely wealthy. So it was very fairy tale. The ending was very hyper unrealistic, even for a rom-com. And this is the Tula sunscreen, which is one of my favorite sunscreens. So we're getting all the favorite products today. I've been trying other products. I'd like a more affordable sunscreen, but I wasn't finding anything I liked, so I just went back to the Tula. I feel like it absorbs really nicely into my skin compared to a lot of the other. And it smells kind of nice. Very subtle. Spanish Slump Deception, I think I gave it 4 or 4.5 stars. I was really, really loving it. Like I said, the first 80%, I was probably leaning towards 5 stars. Even though the writing quality itself wasn't fantastic, I would describe the line level writing to be not very good, but the overall romance story was quite fun until the 80%. I almost wanted to stop reading there because I felt like it was so good up until that point, and the ending was kind of ruining it a little bit. I had so much fun reading it. I can't complain at the end of the day. I think I'm going to skip makeup today because I have been wearing makeup almost every day, and I did an actual full face of makeup on Saturday. And I like to let my eyeballs breathe. I don't like wearing mascara. Even though I only wear mascara and brow gel, I still like to give myself a day or two wherever I can to let my skin and eyeballs breathe without any makeup. And then I have to go get dressed. All right, I am cleaning, listening to the audiobook of Wise Man's Fear. I really never know where this story is going. The mission that started, this new adventure in the second half of the book has now led to another mission which was completed, and they were going home from this mission and stumbled upon something else entirely that is now a whole interlude in the story. I'm curious how much impact it's actually going to have, or if it's kind of just a fun side quest. Yeah, it's giving strong side quest vibes. I'm not sure if it's really going to make that much difference in the actual plot, but it is keeping me on my toes. Just don't know what Quoth will be up to next. He's a man of many lives, apparently, which is the whole point. He's meant to be this very almost mythical man that has lived and done a variety of things in the world that are not common. Definitely is not doing very common things. So that part is holding true. So yeah, it's entertaining. Alright, we finished the other side quest. I just finished chapter 109, and we had a whole training travel montage with running and fighting and philosophy, little teaching training moment. That was fun. Probably one of the more fun scenes in the last few hundred pages. But I'm almost at page 800. Things are still moving along. Okay, I am another 100 or so pages in. I've got about 100 pages left out of 1,000, and I feel like I've just read a whole nother novella's worth of a side plot. Each new plotline is getting fleshed out fully, which is nice, but also it feels like we're not getting much character growth for the amount of time spent on each element. There's so much weight being put into each of these, I'll call them side plots, side quests. It doesn't feel like it's ultimately leading to that much, and I know I didn't feel like there was a very satisfying conclusion in Name of the Wind, so trying to just enjoy it for what it is, and kind of like the daily life, the world building that we get in these side quests is a lot of fun, but also I just don't feel like we're getting good character growth at the end of the day. And I'm ultimately just getting kind of fed up with Quoth, our main character. He has a lot of hubris. I don't feel like his priorities are very aligned. He's also like 16, which it's been mentioned a couple of times of just how young he is. And I find that a little bit silly for like all of the things that he's doing. And I guess some of his decisions make sense for a 16-year-old, but I have 100 pages left, and hopefully I'll have a full review soon. I finished Wise Man's Fear. I'm so happy I read this because it was so much more enjoyable than the first installment. I had a better idea of what to expect from this story going into it, better than I did when I was going into Name of the Wind. That helped a lot. Also, just it being so much longer, I feel like I was able to settle into the book, was able to kind of like let go of trying to finish it for the sake of finishing it. I was able to just go along for the ride, ultimately. And the writing style makes that more easy to do. It's very digestible and easy to just fall into. I honestly haven't felt this immersed into a fantasy world. Maybe since reading some books as a kid, like I'm thinking about like back when I read Eye of the World and Aragon as a kid and how easy it was to just pick up the book and immerse yourself, picture yourself in this world. That's how I felt reading this. That alone made this such an incredible reading experience. Had some nitpicks with the plot. So we start in the university. I really love that setting. I really like the cast of characters that we have there. But then maybe about a third of the way in, Quoth leaves the university to go on a couple of side quests. So we get some court politics for a little bit. We get some survivalist camping in the middle of the woods. And then we get some fighting training portion of the book as well. Each side quest gets fully fleshed out. Part of me liked that because it made it feel all the more immersive, all the more real, but part of me didn't love that because it felt like it wasn't necessarily needed to serve what would ultimately be the point of the story. And part of my issue with this series is I feel like there just is no point. I get the sense that he just wrote this because he wanted to write this world and this character more than he necessarily had a theme or a conclusion in mind. If I had to pull a theme out from this, I think there is something being showcased here around storytelling, stories as they're told versus stories as they're lived. Stories shared are always embellished and twisted and changed as they get told, particularly like these grand heroes, journeys type stories. It's interesting to see that contrast be explored, seeing how Quoth has retold his own story in a more mundane, practical way versus the versions that have been retold after those events and how they're clearly like dramatized and embellished. I think that is an interesting contrast, but it also makes some of the more mundane day-to-day stories feel a little bit more boring, right? Like you're told you're getting this hero's journey, you end up getting a slice of life. Overall, very happy I read it. I really enjoyed just getting immersed in a fantasy book into the world that Rothfuss wrote. I would love to see the third book if it ever comes out. Yeah, I don't know. There's just still a lot of loose ends, particularly in that present day timeline. I wish that the present day Quoth was a little bit more consistent with his past tense. There's clearly some contrast within how strong he was in the past timeline versus how strong he is in the present timeline. I'd like to see that gap filled where he gets back some of his strength and his bravado, I guess. Either way, I really love the writing. If you like slice of life fantasy content, then this might be up your alley. That is all. I'm going to go to a concert tonight for a band that my fiance really likes. It is System of a Down, and their opener is Korn. Not the typical music that I listen to, but should be fun. I haven't been to like a stadium style concert since like 2019, but it is all the way in Jersey, so gotta get ready and leave at like 4 o'clock.
It's a day of glass and love. Thank you.
We are done with August. The month is complete. I ended up reading 5 books total, so I do have one final review for you, which is Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison. I ended up picking this up on a Saturday via audio while I was doing some mending. I literally just listened to several hours of it on 2x speed, so I got through like more than half of it in one sitting, and it just really sucked me in really, really quickly. It's a contemporary romance that is part of a interconnected standalone series called Lovelight Farms. It takes place on this small town, like almost Stars Hollow, Gilmore Girls-esque setting where there's a lot of like town gossip. Main female lead is a baker, so there's also a lot of talk around food and pastries and desserts, which was really delightful. The male love interest is a teacher, and he just is really, really sweet and is really smitten, really just infatuated with the female lead, and I find those types of romances to be a lot of fun to read when people are just really into each other and they're really nice to each other and they really are kind and caring, and I love reading couples like that. It is dual POV, so you get both perspectives as well. There is a really obnoxious third act miscommunication situation, but it is resolved sweetly as well. I would say most of the book is very sweet. There is some spicy scenes like around the 60% mark, and then I think another one around like 80%. You can skip those chapters. They're not totally crucial to the relationship development. You can kind of take it or leave it. The relationship as a whole I just found to be very endearing and really easy to root for early on. I mentioned this is part of the Lovelight Farm series, so this is the 3rd book. They do follow each season, so this is summer. The last one that I have left to read is the fall one. I'm like obsessed with these covers. I think they are some of my favorite like romance covers. Actually, in all 3 of the Lovelight books that I've read so far, I'd say the male love interest, like they all have had really present families. Those characters become very much a part of the story as well. In this one, it was mostly his grandmother giving him advice throughout the story. I liked how that like kind of rounded out the cast a little bit as well. So you're not focused only on the main 2 characters. It could have been a little bit more, in my opinion. I almost would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the family and the side characters. We did get a little more side character development in the other 2 books, so you kind of have that foundation at least if you read them in order. You also don't have to read them in order. You can literally read one at a time. I really like how tightly written these books are. Like this was 300 pages, and I think the audio was about 7 or 8 hours, under 10 hours for sure. I like when it's nice and short and kind of to the point. Oftentimes my issue with longer romances is that all it's doing is either having more interior monologue or having more physical scenes with the couple. I would say I wouldn't mind a longer word count if it was being used to develop some side characters or develop a plot or anything like that. Usually romances aren't doing that a lot of the time, so usually I don't find their length to be worth it. I liked that this was just the right length. Like I said, it took me like 2 days to read it. I did try to pick up Craft Stories I Wrote for the Devil, which was tagged as horror on Goodreads, but is not horror. It's definitely just literary fiction. I would say it's not horror whatsoever. I saw some reviews that mentioned that, and then I was listening to the audio. I got about 25%, maybe 30% in, and I decided I was not particularly interested in it. DNF'd that, took it off my TBR, and then I picked up the audio for Vampires of El Norte, which I was liking, but I was having trouble getting immersed into it. I think I was just a little too distracted at the time. I do think it would have been a good like seasonal transition book, so I am still going to try and read it in September. Western horror I think is usually a really, really nice transition going from summer to fall. So I ended up reading 5 books this month. We had The Turn of the Screw, was very vibey. Spanish Love Deception, which I did quite enjoy as well. It felt actually really similar in a lot of ways two mixed signals, but it was a little bit longer. There was a little more interior monologuing. I also finished Wise Man's Fear, which I did want to mention a couple other things that I missed, I think, in my review. There was a couple other themes that I had written in my notes. Reputation was a big one. Quoth really cares about curating this very specific reputation. Also, truth-seeking. That was something that came up several times throughout the book and was clearly very important to the main character. And whenever there were like discrepancies in information, he would try to really dig to the bottom of it. There was a light touch on morality and some conversation around doing the right thing the wrong way, or doing the wrong thing the right way, or doing something bad for the sake of a greater good. So I thought that was like one of the more intriguing conversations happening. It didn't necessarily get really explored thoroughly, but it was touched on a couple times. Some generally interesting themes. I did have a couple of quotes that I transcribed for my bullet journal entry. One of them is about reputations. One of them is about music. The main character mentions, "My music was the glue that held me together." He mentions that in multiple ways at multiple times. It's something that comes up repeatedly. Like, it is something that is very fundamental to the character. So I like that there's that like anchor point for the character, and it's something that's also relatable. Even though I'm not a musician and I don't necessarily relate to that, it does feel like a very human thing to kind of anchor yourself to something as beautiful as music. There's a quote about secrets and having a fondness for secrets. I just wanted to share that because I felt like I had pulled out a little bit more from my notes than I necessarily got a chance to discuss during the review. Now that I've had a little bit of space from it, I'm looking back very fondly to the book. Like, I'm really glad I read it. I had a good time reading it. Like, it took me like 2 months. Overall, really pleasantly surprised. Like, I really thought I was going to go into it not liking it and was prepared to DNF it early on, but I actually kind of loved it. I wish the ending was a little bit stronger. That's honestly how I feel about most books, so I can't even say I'm surprised there. I did finish Mixed Signals, and I did enjoy that as well. That was a nice casual weekend read. And then Meditations for Mortals was an audiobook that I was consistently listening to during parts of my commute for the past 3 weeks. Did I even tell you about this book? I was listening to this audiobook, Meditations for Mortals by Oliver Burkeman. He is known for his book called 4,000 Weeks, which is like the lifespan of an average human. His themes in both books are all about mortality and like being able to prioritize when you know that you only have so much time and energy in your life. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot around reading, especially because we have these TBRs that just go on and are ever growing, and it's such a good case study for how are we prioritizing and how are we keeping up with the things that we are committing to? How are we deciding what we commit to? How are we vetting those things? Are we revisiting those commitments? There was a specific chapter on revisiting the commitments you've made, because you're always going to keep committing to more things, and oftentimes more things than you really can ever actually complete, which is kind of crazy. Like, I don't know if everyone operates this way. Like, obviously I resonated with the way the author talked about these things. I don't know if that's kind of universal experience or if that's just like one way that people who like to be productive and are addicted to productivity tend to operate. Very interesting to think about what is realistic and what is really feasible. So I tried to pace it out as much as possible because it's meant to be read over the course of 4 weeks, but I had a library hold of 3 weeks. Honestly, I think I will try to reread that maybe next year, but honestly, maybe even this year. It was really helpful to hear the way that things were explained. I'm really glad I read that as well. So 5 books that I finished and really quite enjoyed overall. Really good reading month. Just looked at my TBR and I have read 53 books this year. I've read 15.6% of my TBR overall. I've got 285 books left on there to read. I have been adding a few books here and there, so it is creeping back up a little bit. I would like to maybe have that down to 250 by the end of the year. I think that feels more than reasonable. Regardless, I'm enjoying the journey and enjoying the books that I'm reading. I have picked up A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I'm rereading for my book club. That should be really interesting. I am vlogging that, so that'll be up at some point on the channel as well. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and you can leave a sunflower, some type of flower, in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you in another video.